Hi, it's Dre Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. Today we'll be answering the question, is now the right time for me to buy Twitter stocks? So if you have been following the news or you've been reading different taglines and information, then you know that Elon Musk has offered to buy Twitter. He had already a couple weeks back invested and became like one of the larger shareholders because he had somewhere around like 9-10% of the stocks, and he had already acquired that. He then came back about a week later and then said, okay, now I think I want to buy all of Twitter. And his rationale was he thinks that freedom of speech is the bedrock of democracy and that he thinks to be really important, where he can help unlock some of what he believes to be some of the benefits that maybe Twitter is leaving on the table. And so then you fast forward to today, and Twitter had an all hands on deck board meeting, and the board of directors agreed unanimously to sell Twitter to Elon Musk. And so there were different options. So people weren't 100% sure what they were going to do, but none of the options would have been like very good. So one of them is considered like the poison pill. And so what you do is you're like, okay, well, if someone's trying to take over my public company, then what I can do is I can release even more stocks. And what that will do is it will dilute or decrease the amount of shares that every person owns, including Elon Musk. So in their mind, they're like, okay, we're going to be doing a little bit better. He no longer owns like 9-10%. We can put out enough stocks where he's only going to be able to own maybe like 4 or 5%. Now, a lot of people will be upset with that because it also decreases the value of the shareholders, which will also upset them. Like, people aren't investing in the stocks and they're looking at their portfolio and they're like, okay, Twitter's a good company. And then you go out and you dilute the stocks where everyone's like, okay, you're lowering my earnings per share and I don't like that. So people may end up selling them anyways. And so that is something that they were considering, but they ultimately decided, you know what? Let's just go ahead and sell Twitter for about $44-45 billion, and then we'll move on from there. And I mean, there's probably no one that's like too sad about that. So from Elon Musk's perspective, his thought was, okay, I'm going to get rid of, I think he started off by listing maybe like 2 or 3 things. Number one is he said, okay, I'm going to work on getting rid of the bots that are on Twitter. 2, we're going to work on the algorithm so that it's more inclusive, more inviting, and we're going to unlock some of the potential in Twitter because there hasn't been a lot of major updates. And if you think about Twitter as a social media platform and you compare it to like LinkedIn or Facebook or even really like TikTok and Instagram, where there are changes and iterations where things are being updated and new features are being rolled out, where there was a time when Facebook and LinkedIn didn't have live video and they do now, or where Instagram didn't have stories and they do now. But Twitter has been pretty much the exact same, from the amount of characters that you can put in a message to just the way the platform looks and the way things have been going. So there is this idea that there is a lot of innovation that can be implemented and it will be very beneficial. The third thing that Elon said he was looking to do is he really wanted to focus on the freedom of speech, and whether that is the censorship that some people have been complaining about, or whether that would be things like maybe like people being suspended, or even people being completely canceled where their accounts are completely closed down. All of these he will be looking to review from a freedom of speech perspective. So if you are someone who thinks that some of these changes are going to be very exciting, then you'll probably want to get on Twitter and you want to make sure you have an account set up and you want to make sure you go along for the ride. Now, as far as you investing and deciding, does this make sense for me to invest in Twitter now? Now that I know that Elon Musk is going to buy it, should I invest in it? And for that, most of the time, there's lots of things that you want to consider. If you've ever read any of Warren Buffett books where we talk about value investing and things of that nature, the principle of value investing is I have to figure out, is this stock from a perspective of the earnings that it makes, the cash that it has on hands, the vision for the company, does it make sense? Do I believe that there is going to be an increase in my earnings over a long period of time? So if you just look at it from that perspective, then you're probably going to have to come with a no as your answer, because we're not talking about a long period of time. We're talking about this purchase, this takeover is going to happen most likely by the end of the year. So we're in April now. So will I be able to make a good return within the next like 7 months? And the truth is, I don't honestly know, because we don't know what's ultimately going to happen. Sure, the idea has been agreed upon in principle, but do we know that this purchase is going to actually carry itself out by the end of the year? We don't know. Do we know if, just as far as the regulators and approving everything, are they going to be okay with everything? Now, there is no reason for the regulators to decline the purchase, but it doesn't mean that they won't, or it doesn't mean that they can't. So these are just different questions that you don't really have the ability to make a decision on. Now, if you're just simply looking from a stock perspective, you'll look at things like the PE ratio, and that is just your price per earnings. So you take the price of the stock and you divide it by the earnings that it has had over time. So if you look at that, and then the number, it fluctuates based on like which quarter you're looking at. Are you looking at for the whole year as far as the earnings? But currently, the price per earnings of Twitter is showing at about 16. And if you look at it from the average in the U.S. stock, that PE ratio is about 18.5. So that does look like you would be able to get in at a good value just from that perspective. Now, long term, how Twitter is going to look, because it's going private and Elon's just going to buy the company out, will you be able to, of course, get the return that you're looking for? I don't know what return you're looking for, but let's also look at it from the perspective of the stock today. So if you look at just the stock today, it is currently at $51.70, and that is a 2.77 per share increase for the day, which is about 6%. So as far as the day is concerned, there's a lot of people that feel really good about that news and have purchased the stock, so it has gone up about 6% today. Now, if you compare that to 6 months or a year, I usually would look at it at least about a year. But if you look at it from about a year, this time a year ago, it was at $42.66. So that means that at least for today, that you've now gone up, and we're looking at being up about 22% year over year. It's gone up about $9, which is pretty good. So do you feel that there's going to be another one of those? And the next 7-8 months is going to go up another 10 or 15%. If you do, then it would make sense for you. It would be a good decision. And then when Elon first started talking about buying Twitter, that's when it went up from $38 to $51. So that was about a week ago where things really just started jumping up, where people were like, whoa, what are we doing here? And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you look at stocks from a microeconomic level where you're saying, okay, if someone's going to buy this, then he's probably going to be overpaying it if Twitter doesn't agree, where it's a hostile takeover. So if it's a hostile takeover, then I will own the stock, and he will pay me maybe 2 times my value or 1.5 times my value, because to him, it's worth it to purchase the company. Now, that may change because Twitter has just agreed to sell it to him. So you may not get the same amount that those people came in at, but nonetheless, they jumped it up, or they drove up the value of the stock from $38.69 on Thursday, March 31st, to where it is currently at $51.70 on April 25th. So just within about 3 weeks, you've gone up significantly. So if you look at it from that perspective, then you may be on the tip of something. You may be buying high. And that is a very difficult situation to be in. But realistically, if you are jumping on a bandwagon, it is almost safe to say that you are buying high. And versus and then if you buy high, then you'll be selling it. I don't know if you'll be selling it for profit or a loss, because we just don't know what's going to happen over this next 8 months. So if you are a long-term investor who is looking to create their financial freedom, then this is probably not going to be the situation that you want, because there's too many unknown variables. Now, if you're someone who just maybe is like, you know what, I want to see if I can get kind of lucky. I want to find something that works where I can make a good 10, 20% in a short amount of time. This could work for you. It is possible that if everything goes perfectly, that you may find that this value continues to go up. The difficulty is we don't know what's going to happen over the next 7 to 8 months. We don't even know if the deal is going to get approved and it's going to go through. We don't know when they go through due diligence, whether things are going to work out. We just don't know so many things. So on that perspective, if you're just looking at maybe spending some of your, we'll say your free money. And what I mean is, if this is money that you would go golfing with, or this is money that you would take a family vacation with, or this just whatever kind of things you do for relaxation and leisure, if you want to invest that money, go for it. But if this is the money that you're saying, I expect a return on this, and I need a return on this money, then it's probably not going to be the decision that you want to make, because there's just too many unknown variables. If you have any additional retirement questions, I do invite you to check out my free retirement training at obsidianwisdom.com/training. In it, I give you the entire wisdometric framework that I use with my clients to help them eradicate financial stress, generate passive income, and build a prosperous retirement strategy. Until next time, Wisdomites, remember, wisdom is asking the right questions to allow yourself to get the right answers. Keep asking those questions, and you will keep getting those answers. Continue blessings.